Bill C-5 ignites backlash. Liberals restore controversial policy. Carney confronted on the street. Bill C-5 has triggered major backlash across Canada, emerging as one of the most divisive legislative moves of Mark Carney's new Liberal government. The bill, passed shortly after Carney's snap election victory on April 28, grants the federal cabinet sweeping powers to override environmental and regulatory hurdles in the name of national interest. Supporters argue it's essential to fast-track infrastructure and energy projects, but critics see it as a dangerous overreach that weakens Indigenous rights, environmental protections, and public trust. Though the Liberals initiated the bill, the Conservatives backed it after significant amendments were made. These changes removed some of the more opaque and ideological elements originally embedded in the legislation. Now, Bill C-5 is positioned as a pragmatic tool, a mechanism to bypass regulatory bottlenecks that have long delayed nation-building projects. However, the speed with which the bill passed and the broad authority it grants have fueled suspicions that it's being used to sidestep legitimate public consultation and opposition. Mark Carney's leadership debut was quickly tested when he was confronted on the street by concerned citizens ahead of his trip to the Canada-EU-NATO summit. The encounter, caught on video, went viral, showing a visibly uncomfortable Prime Minister avoiding questions on pressing domestic issues. At a time when Canadians face a cost-of-living crisis, an overwhelmed healthcare system, and rising housing insecurity, many question the optics of Carney heading abroad so soon after taking office. The housing crisis remains a dominant concern. Despite a decade of federal promises, housing demand continues to surge while supply stagnates. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation has admitted it no longer sees a path back to affordability levels seen in 2004. Prices have doubled in communities like Chilliwack, once seen as affordable, where homes now average close to $1 million. Conservatives blame the Liberal government's lax policies on foreign investment and corporate ownership, which have allowed wealth, legal and illicit, to flood Canadian real estate and push out local buyers. Healthcare is also under immense pressure. Nurses in Vernon, British Columbia, recently raised alarms about collapsing hospital conditions, staff burnout, and systemic failure. Gag orders imposed on medical staff prevent them from speaking openly, compounding public frustration. Many are now questioning the federal government's spending priorities. Critics argue that if the billions lost to corporate tax avoidance, like the $5.3 billion allegedly sidestepped by Brookfield while Carney was involved in the private sector, were reinvested in healthcare, the crisis could be alleviated. The federal gun buyback program adds yet another layer to public discontent. Over $342 million has been earmarked to retrieve 180,000 assault-style firearms, many of which are traditional hunting rifles. The process is riddled with inefficiencies, and the use of outdated RCMP estimates has further undermined the credibility of the program. Opponents argue that the funds would be better spent on crime prevention, mental health support, or healthcare. The suggestion that some confiscated firearms might be destroyed instead of repurposed has only intensified criticism over government waste. Despite their long-standing opposition to Liberal environmental policy, the Conservatives supported Bill C-5 in its revised form. Their rationale was that it offers a rare chance to roll back or bypass Liberal regulatory barriers like the oil and gas production cap, the emissions ceiling, and the shipping ban. Andrew Scheer defended the move, stating that while not perfect, the bill could open the door to more energy development and industrial growth in the future. Conservatives have framed it as a political trap for Carney. If he fails to deliver results, they will argue it's further proof of Liberal incompetence. Indigenous leaders, however, have raised serious concerns. The Assembly of First Nations has warned that Bill C-5 undermines consultation rights and risks reigniting protests. National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepinak has stated that the bill's fast-track approach directly threatens years of reconciliation progress. Indigenous groups fear being sidelined in decisions that affect their lands and communities, as the government pursues projects under the vague pretext of national interest. Environmental organizations are also on high alert. Bill C-5's expedited approval mechanisms could weaken oversight for pipelines, mining, and other major projects. Carney insists that Canada needs to build quickly to remain globally competitive and secure energy independence, but critics warn that shortcuts today could lead to long-term environmental and legal consequences. Many activists believe that sustainable development must include strong public input and ecological safeguards, not unchecked executive authority. The reaction to Carney's street confrontation reflects broader public skepticism toward political elites. Many Canadians are demanding real action on issues like affordability, healthcare, and transparency, not international photo ops. The symbolism of a freshly elected prime minister avoiding questions on the street while heading to a global summit has only reinforced the perception that government priorities are misaligned with public needs. The April 28 snap election had positioned Carney as a steady hand amid global instability. His background in finance gave him credibility, and the Liberals were able to retain power in a minority. But Bill C-5 now defines his early legacy. Its success or failure may determine how long his government lasts. If infrastructure projects stall, or if public backlash grows, the Conservatives, under Pierre Poilievre, are poised to capitalize on any Liberal missteps. The passage of Bill C-5 reveals a broader political gamble. Carney's team sees it as a foundation for long-overdue economic renewal, but critics view it as a power grab cloaked in nation-building language. The debate now centers not just on the bill itself, but on whether Carney can deliver on promises without alienating voters and violating democratic norms. The risk for his government is clear: sweeping power with little to show for it will only embolden opposition voices heading into the next election cycle. Ultimately, Bill C-5 is a litmus test for Carney's leadership. It embodies the tension between rapid development and responsible governance. As Canadians watch closely, they expect more than legislative theater. They want real outcomes. Whether the bill unlocks progress or deepens division will shape the next chapter of Canadian politics. What's clear is that the political honeymoon is over, and Carney now faces the full weight of leadership under a national microscope.